When we left off, we were enjoying the simple pleasures of being far offshore on our way from Costa Rica to Hawaii.
Well, today is the beginning of week 3 for us at sea.
Been at sea for 14 days and we have sailed 1,667 miles so far.
It's quite a ways, but we still have a long way to go. That's a direct line that we've sailed towards our destination, or distance made good. We have probably sailed a couple of hundred miles more than that, just with the curvature of the wind and our tacks and all that sort of stuff.
About 40% of the way there, both time-wise and distance-wise.
2,500 miles to go. So
that's to Hilo, Hawaii, the big island.
Decent space still to go. I think our best day of our 24-hour period so far has been like 165 miles in 24-hour period. That was at the very beginning when we were in that gale coming out of the Papagayos there, but 30 knots plus. Since then, I think we did one day just under 100.
We had one pretty slow day, but from here on out, we're hoping to do about 140 miles a day or so. We should be in really good, consistent trade winds. From here on out, a good 15-ish knots right off our quarter.
But today, I don't know if you can see, it's pretty calm around. Yesterday afternoon, there were some white caps as the wind picked up a bit. And we've still got a little bit of a north swell kind of coming out of the bottom of Mexico Baja area right now. Those should turn into more of a consistent northwest swells at some point. But yeah, this is pretty calm sailing. The second day in a row, not a cloud in the sky, right?
Very nice. Yeah, nice weather. We're probably, say, like 600, 700 miles due south of like Cabo, the tip of Baja right now.
Sometimes the weather just seems to come out of nowhere. We're having a pretty calm day, and then it picked up relatively quickly. We're like 10, 13 knots for a while there, and then we're 20 knots plus, and it's really kicked up. There's a lot of fetch here, so we've got some real large swells coming really close together. And we ended up putting in one reef in the main, and we double reefed the main, and just the staysail out right now. We're still moving along at about 6 knots. But we're not on our heading. We just turned, let's see, we're probably about 30, 40 degrees off our heading right now to try and run down with it a little bit so we're not bashing into these large, fetchy waves. Otherwise, we just come up one, crash into the next one. Not much fun. And maybe we'll turn it back later on. We'll see how this wind goes. The sun's setting and the birds are here trying to land.
Throughout the night and into the next morning, the bumpy ride continued. To stay on course, we were sailing on a close reach, with 17 knots of wind just forward of the beam, bashing a bit into the swells. Morning. It was a very bumpy, rocky, uncomfortable night. Ended up doing shorter shifts, like 2.5-hour watches. We did our watches from down below and just went upstairs and looked around every 15 minutes or so. Waves are just crazy, came out of nowhere.
Well, Hillary spotted this out the galley window.
All of a sudden I heard a motor and I looked up and there's a helicopter.
Have you been reported missing?
What the heck? That was crazy. I was just down below doing some dishes and all of a sudden I was like, I hear, sounds like a motor. And I look up out the window and there's a helicopter like right next to us. And you said you thought it was a Mexican flag one?
I think it was Mexico flag on it, yeah.
So I don't know if they're trying to patrol like for illegal fishing. We're not in the Revejados marine protected area, but we're not far from it, and I know they do patrol with helicopters for illegal fishing boats.
That has to be it, because Well,
we're
a couple
a
of 100
long
miles
ways
from that.
from land.
Yeah, 100 miles, 200 miles from that. Otherwise, the mainland, we're a long way, so they're definitely coming from that way.
Crazy.
Well, that's pretty crazy. They were hovering. That wasn't very high at all. They were like 50 feet.
I'd say lower than that. Yeah.
Right off. And we tried hailing them on the VHF. They didn't respond. You just kind of get waving out the window there, and they sat there for a minute. I think Hillary was saying that they're probably just recording our details as part of their patrol. But that's a little bit freaky. We're a long way from nowhere to have a helicopter.
Long way. He had like the floats on the bottom of them, so he could like land in the ocean.
Where's he gonna land? This is no way you can land in this crap, right?
I don't know. They looked like floats though, right?
No, they were, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't think you could. I don't know what conditions they need to land in. This is pretty. Splishy splash. Oh, your alarm went off for the cake.
Oh, okay.
Back to baking.
By morning, the wind had died off, and when we went to shake out the reef, we noticed our bottommost slide was cracked.
Well, we've got about 12 to 13 knots right now, just behind our beam here. And the wind's calm enough now, so we'll shake that reef out. I think to fix the slide though, we're going to wait for a little bit of a calmer day still. We're still rolling quite a bit side to side, and we're expecting some heavier weather coming in probably tomorrow last we looked. So we're going to wait till that all calms down. Since it's the bottom slide anyway, we can keep one reef in and it doesn't affect us there.
Before we shake the reef out, we're actually going to drop the whole sail down and just take a look at the other slides. It's been pretty sticky going up and down the mast, so we don't know if we just need to lube it a bit or if maybe there's some other cracked sides that we need to take a look at.
All right, here we go. I'm going to bring the main center a little bit, and then Hillary's going to drop the main down. We've got the wind pretty far behind us right now. I might even bring us back a little bit more.
So the wind's behind us, Ty is just pulling in the main right now, centering that a bit. And when he gives me the go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and release the halyard here and drop the main. Alright, so sails down. This, our very top slide is metal, so that shouldn't be a concern. This is the first plastic one, and it looks alright. Next one down is a big one from the batten box, but the fourth one down is the one that we were thinking the other day was sticking a lot. And it's not cracked at all, so that's good. It's really loose in there, it feels like, so maybe it's too loose? I don't know. One looks good. So these are our reefing lines here. Got a red one that's the second reef. Green one's the first reef. We're gonna leave the first reef in for now. As Ty was saying, we still have that slide down low that we need to take a look at. So I'll keep that one cleated off. The red one, it also has a cam cleat on the other side, but we put it on this winch to really tighten it down when we were putting in the reef. So now I'll take that off. Alright, so that is free. Should be able to run free and pull out through the other end and lift the sail up. So let's do it. So the main thing here, since we're not up into the wind, so we have to make sure these battens don't get stuck in the lazy jacks or the rigging or anything like that. So this was our second reef point, the temporary tack. I'll just take that off the hook, leave the first one there, and keep on hoisting it up. We had raised up the topping lift a little bit. We're gonna lift that off and see how the sail looks. Well, this guy is in our sail bag. He made a bad jump and ended up in a place where he didn't want to be.
And that's one of the few times that we will switch to the electronic autopilot, when we're both up on deck and fiddling with the sails, particularly the mainsail there, where there's a risk, a greater risk of jibing or accidentally jibing there. We'll switch to the electronic autopilot. We know we can pick a heading and just have it directly stay on that heading. whereas a wind vane's purpose is to waver a little bit following the wind. Now it's time to switch back to Dan.
As afternoon came, we watched as some different clouds rolled in, a sign of changing weather.
There's red sky at night, sailors delight, or is this rainbow in the morning, watch out for the fawning, or is it upside down, upside on the holy glow? Nice evening. We've got a bit of a headache, but hey, we're downwind, so we've got the pole out.
Yeah. Well, we're into day 16 at sea, which is the longest that either one of us has been at sea. Today, the wind lightened up, we put the pole out, the wind's behind us now. Really nice sailing, making about 6.5 knots with, I don't know, like 13 knots of wind or so behind us. Really nice sailing. A bit rolly with the swells behind us, but not too bad. A pretty nice way to do 6.5 knots. I think we're expecting the weather to get pretty light overnight and into tomorrow, and then it should really pick up again out of the north and slowly swing back around behind us. But just enjoying this amazing sunset tonight. The whole sky is lit up and glowing. It's really beautiful. It's crazy the change in weather. You can really notice it. It's cooled down quite a bit. It still gets quite warm in the sun during the day, but if you're not in the sun with the breeze, it's a bit chilly. A t-shirt's nice, whereas before you would have been dying in a t-shirt. It's so hot. Now the nights get pretty cool, quite damp, just ocean weather, I guess, rather than land weather. Nice night though, really pretty. What's for dinner?
Pizza.
Pizza? That sounds good.
I'm gonna try something different. I might try a yogurt sauce base.
That sounds good.
I'll see how to work with this.
Yum. Pizza.
Thai's pizza.
Thai's pizza? Where's Hillary's pizza?
Did you make one?
The next morning, day 17, as expected, we had much lighter winds, which meant it was the perfect time to do the needed repairs on the sail. I lifted the sail to remove the crack slide at the very bottom from the track. Next, I removed the stitching from the webbing holding the slide onto the sail. With the new slide ready, I whipped the webbing onto the new slide and then began several rows of zigzag lock stitches with a speedy stitcher. The last step was popping the slide back into the track. So that broken slide we had on the mainsail, the very bottom slide, I was able to remove the broken one and attach a brand new one. It has some whipping twine that just keeps kind of a snug fit with the webbing, and then the webbing sewed through the sail here in 3 places on the left of the sail, and that's what attaches the slide that slides up and down the track here. That one's all back on there, and now we're going to take a look at our reefing line. The other day we noticed that our second reefing line was chafed pretty badly from when we had it run directly to the winch rather than through the cam cleat, and it was chafing a bit where it came out of the bottom of the boom, and it actually chafed about halfway through the line. So we want to replace that before we need to use it again. Hello.
Check. Okay, go ahead.
So our reefing lines run through the boom, and we'll show you where they come out the bottom and where we think it was chafing. Normally they run through and cleat off through this little cam cleat, but to get it a bit tighter the other day, we skipped the cam cleat and we had it run this way back to a winch on the mast. Runs the line right by this corner right here at the bottom of the boom, and we're pretty sure that is what was causing the chafe on the line. a good reason to carry not only spare parts, but also spare lines and things like that, because you never know when you're going to have to replace something.
In order to run a new reef line, I sewed the end of the old line, butted up against the new line, and then wrapped the join in tape to ensure they would hold together when getting pulled through the boom.
We've been doing weather checks about 2 times a day, maybe a little bit more. A lot of that too is just looking outside, paying attention to the sky and the changing conditions around you so that stuff doesn't sneak up on you, because it can do that. In the evenings right now, we've been downloading mostly the weather synoptics from the Ocean Prediction Center. What those are, for the most part, are weather data that's been analyzed by forecasters, by professionals. And that's where you'll have the charted highs, the lows, the fronts, the warm fronts, cold fronts, and all that sort of stuff. In the mornings, we've been doing a grid download. That's just a raw data of wind speeds based on, I think, a number of different factors. Different buoys that are placed around the place, obviously weather stations, and then interpolations in between that as well. We chose this morning to do some work on the sail because we knew this was coming. We knew we were going to have a day of calm winds. So the light winds came in late yesterday evening. We had them all through the night. We ended up dropping the main middle of the night because it was so light. We put the Genoa out on a pole last night as well, which just helped us keep that main filled. We've only got about 7 to 8 knots of wind behind us right now, and we're heading in the wrong direction. We're just trying to keep the swells. You can probably see the rocking. We're still rolling quite a bit, but we've been trying to keep the wind is on the port side right now, but that pole keeps the Genoa out there, and it is going to pick back up sometime this evening. I think we're expecting back into the 20s. Now, we haven't done our weather checks for today, but the last few days it's been pretty consistent that tonight through almost all of tomorrow and maybe a little bit of tomorrow night as well, we're expecting the 20s, 25 knots of wind. It's going to be out of the north or the northeast, and we're probably going to want to have a second reef in the main for that, and especially through the night time at least. And that's what this reefing line is. That is our second reefing line. We do not want to trust it to a halfway chafed through line, because in the middle of the night we don't want it breaking and then we'll have all hell breaking loose. That's why we're taking care of it now. And that's a big part of what you want to do here on a boat, is taking care of things before they break. Hopefully, that's very rarely the case. A lot of times you're mending stuff on the way, but there's still a bit of planning around how to fix things and when to make jury rig fixes and then permanent fixes with what you've got on board, what you can do, and also what's just going to be safe to work on. This is a pretty easy fix here. Okay. So you just want to go pull it through. Okay, get it through there first, I guess. Just make sure there's heaps of slack on that. Okay, hold up. Here it goes.
Our reefing lines tie around the boom, run up through the temporary clew, back to a block at the end of the boom, and then through the boom to a cam cleat. We slowly fed the new line through as we pulled the old one out, careful not to snag it anywhere along the way to get a clean run.
Hey, I think I got it. Yay!
We're going to go ahead and raise that main all the way up, because that'll be the longest point of what we need, that second reefing line. That way when the main's all the way up, that line will still need some slack and it'll need to come out the boom end here. And then we'll be able to mark it and cut it at that point.
Thanks so much for joining us, and a huge thanks to our patron Adrift crew who keep these videos coming. If you enjoyed watching, remember to give us a thumbs up, share with your friends, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Until next time, adios.
You're videoing me?
I'm videoing you.
Maybe not for now.